The good news is we're all in this together. And when we see we're together, we can work things out. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey, that's me, and the famous Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. Every day I get up and do a web search and I'm trying to get over the little trouble I'm having with my computer here. Do a web search, a series of web searches, I should say, looking at matters relating to energy and climate change. And every article I find that I think is of special interest, I do a synopsis and a link to the original article. I put 10 to 15 of these together every week, every day, and put them up at a blog, geoharvey.com, named after me, oddly enough.
Clay, it's strange, isn't it? Yes.
I couldn't think of a better name, and it just stuck. And then once a week, Tom and I get together and we go over the items that got chosen as the 20 or 21, 22 most important.
It's about 3 a day.
About 3 a day. Almost always 3 a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2, sometimes 4. But
it averages out to 3.
it sure does. And so here we are. We are doing an Energy Week show. This is our show number 278.
And people are complaining they don't see enough of me, so I put myself.
Well, there you go. Now you know what Tom looks like.
I'm sitting here, we're moving the cameras around with the mouse, and I read the articles, and if there's some of them that are particularly compelling, I'll try and alert you, because some of these there's always some of these that are good.
There's always
and some of them we could devote a whole show to.
Yeah, actually.
Some of them we actually have.
Yes. But, you know, Tom does his homework, I got no doubt of that. And so we sit and talk about these things. We're going to be starting on Thursday, the 16th of August. We record this show on Thursdays, and today is the 23rd, so we have to go back a week, because if we talk about today's news, then Tom can't be prepared. So, and I would be.
And if we talk about tomorrow's news, we're prescient.
That's true. But we can talk about certain things that we can bet will happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, anyway, we should kick off, I guess.
This is a long and frightening article.
Yes.
And it starts off saying, the message of a scorching 2018. We're not prepared for global warming.
Yes, that's right. This is from a publication called SBS. And Tom just read the title, actually. The summer of fire and swelter looks like a lot like the future that scientists are warning us about for the era of climate change, and it is revealing in real time how unprepared much of the world remains for a life on a hotter planet. Disruptions to everyday life have been devastating. We've got a couple of pictures here. And the first one here is a picture of the Rhine River. This picture was taken at
Dusseldorf, yep.
In 2012, and
it's a nice, peaceful picture.
Yeah, of a
Mississippi
Riverboat steamboat. I actually traveled on the Rhine at one time on a side paddle steamboat, but they're almost all gone. There's one left, I'm told.
Well, the Rhine is a very important river in Europe.
Yeah.
A lot of commerce on it. Far more than anything, we're using rivers for commerce in America.
I went from Cologne to Wiesbaden, and the traveling on that river, it was one ship after another, large boat, powered barge, whatever you want to call them, and they carried all kinds of goods. I'm sure that some of them were carrying coal, but they carried all kinds of things. This thing.
You're looking at the picture, aren't you?
Yeah, let's look at the picture. This thing is a little unusual. I didn't see side paddle steamboats, but there were a lot of big boats, ships, and so forth on the Rhine. Not just speedboats and things like that. These were big.
Well, this is a nice excursion boat.
Yeah.
This is great for a
Yeah.
summer afternoon.
Anyway, we have another picture from
Yeah.
this year. This is the Rhine River at Düsseldorf. I'm just going to switch straight to it in 2000.
But before we do, look at, well, let's just pop back a second.
Pop back a sec.
If you'll notice, there's a couple of tall towers in the back.
Yes.
Toward the front of the ship, it looks like another,
Yep.
I can't even think of the word, another smokestack, but it's not. It's in the
It's not.
background.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so let's move up.
Those are the towers of a suspension bridge, and there's
the same
suspension
towers. So
bridge.
you can see that this is almost the same location.
Almost. Yep.
It's a few years later that
This is the
tower in the background wasn't built in the first picture there.
Oh, the tower in the background, I think, is actually was built, but it was off on the right outside of the picture frame.
That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what the Rhine
This is scary.
looks like after
Today.
Yeah, after spring and summer of intense drought and heat. So that's kind of depressing. Anybody who says that climate change isn't happening should think about this one. Or there's another article that will appear at the very end of today about Arctic ice, and
We'll be touching base on that.
touch base
Some
on that.
takeaways from this,
Yeah.
because this is an important article.
Yeah,
Globally, this is shaping up to be the fourth hottest year on record.
right.
The only years hotter were the three previous ones.
Yeah.
So something's happening.
Well, the hottest year on record was 2017. The next hottest was 2016. The next hottest was 2015. This year will probably be the fourth hottest. It's a La Nina year, which is normally a little
A
cooler.
little cooler, right? Doesn't
The-
seem to be happening.
Yeah. The next hottest year was 2010. The next hottest year was 2005, and the next hottest year was 1998. And 1998, the people who deny climate change say that there's been a hiatus, and the reason they say that, the backing they give that, is the fact that 2005 was about the same temperature as 1998. So you could draw a line between the two, and it was horizontal.
Oh, wow.
You see, so there's been a hiatus. I'm sorry, there's been no hiatus.
No hiatus.
Things are getting worse, and they're getting worse fast at this point.
Well, there's some more takeaways from this thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
like I said, it's a long and important article.
Yeah,
California has had the largest fire in state history.
yes,
Okay. In Europe, nuclear plants have had to shut down because the river water that cools the reactors was
Right.
too warm. It was killing fish.
coal plants and natural gas plants have the same problem, by the way.
They need to be
cooling.
cooled. Yep. Heat waves on 4 continents have brought electricity grids crashing.
Right.
Been 105 degrees in Europe.
Yeah.
They never get that hot.
Actually, it was 117 in Portugal and Spain.
No, that's not Europe.
Okay.
Heat-related deaths in Japan, U.S., Philippines, up to 12 times more deaths than previously.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not good.
And
It's
meantime,
here's the final wrap-up. It's
Yeah.
not a wake-up call anymore. It's now absolutely happening to millions of people around the world. This is not a plateau.
yeah,
On the horizon is a future of cascading system failures threatening basic necessities like food supply and electricity.
right.
Now, I don't know if that's overly scary or whether that's realistic.
Well, I think it's realistic. On the other hand, I have not lost my hope that we can do stuff about this.
We can if we've got the will.
Well, we
but
will
we got
do-
people out there fighting it.
Yeah, absolutely we do. They're
And
going
we're-
to be...
and we're
they're
going to talk
be-
about that right
Yes,
now.
Yes, okay. So the next item, I've lost my place. Here we go. The next
From
item
Clean
is from
Technical.
Clean Technica.
EPA staff claims fuel economy rollback based on junk science.
The EPA and Transportation Department have taken the position that vehicle fuel economy standards put in place under President Obama should be relaxed. But the EPA's own experts say that new policy initiative is based on flawed assumptions. And we'll see more of that this
We will be talking.
Today, too.
This is very significant.
yeah,
because-
it is.
Well, Obama wanted fuel economy standards of 54 miles per gallon by 2025, which is very high. I mean, that's unbelievable.
How many? 55?
54.
54.
And
okay.
it has to be doable, or they never would have proposed it.
Tom, it is doable.
Yeah.
My last car was a Prius.
Yeah.
And everybody, who had that, it was a 2001 Prius. A lot of people out there were complaining about the fact that it was supposed to get 52 miles per gallon in city traffic and 45 on the highway. And I drove on the interstate highway, average speed like 65 miles an hour or just a little bit less, from Brattleboro, Vermont to Atlanta, Georgia. And on that trip, I got 52 miles on the way down and 55 on the way back.
That's amazing.
I might have had a tailwind on the way back, but nevertheless, that kind of mileage is achievable.
Quite a while ago,
Yeah,
I guess this was actually my first job. I
Yeah.
worked for the state of New York,
yeah.
and one of the engineers in the office just bought himself a VW
You should
Rabbit.
put yourself up on the screen.
Why not? Yeah,
Why
I'll
not?
put myself up there. Why should you be up there all the
That's
time?
right, absolutely. Why should I be? And,
So anyhow, this kid had just bought himself a VW Rabbit, which is a brand new car at that time.
Yeah.
And he was bragging every day about how much miles per gallon he was getting. So one of the guys in the office dropped out and started pouring gas in his tank. And he was getting 85, 90, 105 miles per gallon. He called up Volkswagen. And then after a while, they stopped.
Well, I'll tell you, when I got my my Prius, I drove from the Toyota dealership to a local garage where my son worked, which was about 7 or 8 miles away, and I pushed the mileage reset before I did that. The car was already warm, okay, because they had warmed it up, and I got into a warm car on a summer afternoon, and I started driving over, and I drove very, very carefully, and I got 96.4 miles per gallon, according to the car. But this is doable, and actually, we have a neat article later on today about high mileage.
About what?
High mileage.
Well, okay, we'll see.
We will
It's
get
coming.
to it. Absolutely.
It's coming.
Okay.
Interesting article here.
Yeah.
There's a picture of a clover leaf in this article.
Yes.
That I've never seen anything like it. It's like 17 stories, 17 levels of clover leaf.
Yes.
But anyhow, data provided by the Transportation Department added millions more outdated vehicles to the nation's roads.
Yes.
Okay, so they're playing games. As
yeah.
it says in the article, talk about your junk science. Cooking books in order to support political objectives of the Trump maladministration.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is,
it's
unfortunately.
ideology, not science.
That's right. Okay.
Well, let's move along because
Our
we've got
next
another one
item
here.
is from
This is important too.
E&E News.
We got a picture here.
Do we?
Yeah.
No.
No?
No. You're talking about the Navajo Generating Station. That's for the next one. This is a coal company in the Interior
A
Department?
coal company and Interior Department. Yeah, the Navajo Generating Station is the one that this article's about.
You're absolutely right. I apologize. I have made an error. It's something I do at least a couple of times every day.
Okay, so let's take a look at that. That's the Navajo Generating Station in the Navajo Nation, which is an interesting concept because it's a sovereign territory.
That's
That's
right.
about as big as New England.
Yeah.
And it's in Arizona, it's in New Mexico, and it's in Utah.
Yeah.
And it contains within it some of the most beautiful parts of America. Monument Valley is in there. A coal company and Interior teamed up to save a power plant. And like I said, there's an image.
In September of 2017, I'm sorry, that's not Peabody, it's Peabody.
It's Peabody, Mass.
Peabody, Mass, and it's Peabody. Peabody Energy Corp sent the Interior Department a game plan for keeping a coal-burning 2,100 megawatt Navajo generating station in Arizona operating. Peabody mine supplies coal to the plant. The plant is a symbol of Trump support for the coal industry.
And it's all in this Indian territory.
Yeah, and
It's the Hopi, by the way, not the Navajos.
well, both of them are employed at the plant and
Yeah,
mine.
that's 800 jobs or something like that.
That's right. And the thing to bear in mind here is that if this plant closes, or when this plant closes, because it will, the coal mine that supplies it with coal will also close, because
Yes.
there is no way to transport coal out of there aside from
No reasonable way.
yeah, aside from a very short, I think it's a very short railroad that runs between the two, but it's not
Well, basically, you can look at it as one setup.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
mine doesn't supply anything other than the coal station.
Yes.
And the coal station doesn't get its fuel from anywhere else than the mine.
yeah, and there's no convenient way to get anything else in or out.
Well, couple of quick takeaways here.
Yep.
The plant was originally scheduled to run until 2044. However, 4 utilities with an ownership stake voted to shut it down at the end of 2019,
Yeah,
quoting competition from natural gas.
yeah,
Okay, it's no longer economical. Peabody asked the government to push the plant's largest customer, which is a water district, which pumps water across the desert from the Colorado River to Phoenix and Tucson. So there's a lot involved.
but
in
you
this.
know, I think it was Kit Carson, Energy Co-op
That's the name of one of the distributing.
they were buying power from Tri-State,
We can get it cheaper.
and they can get it cheaper from wind power. They were getting it from Tri-State, and they bought out they're buying out their contract with Tri-State for $120
Yeah, we talked
million.
about that. Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're paying $120 million for the right to go to cheaper power. Why? Because it saves them money.
Duh.
I mean, if that's the state this coal plant is in, it tells you how bad things are for it. And what is Trump going to do? Well, in essence, he wants to force the utilities to buy the power from the plant, which
Have more
means that
money.
normal, ordinary working people are going to have to pay higher utility rates.
That's what's going to happen.
Okay.
Well, it's not going to be settled for a while because it's in the courts now.
Yeah. We have
Let's
to
move along.
We're going to have to. We've been talking and talking and
There
talking.
are some
about
great
a couple
articles
of
to
things.
talk about.
Yeah. But we're
Except
gonna
for
have
my
to be-
buddy with the rabbit.
We're going to have to be quick. Okay, our next item is from Energy Reporters.
No, North American Wind Power.
You're right, North American Wind Power. Here I've had 3 errors in just 3 minutes.
Look ashamed.
I'm very ashamed. Our next item is from North American Wind Power.
New Jersey plans path toward 100% clean energy by 2050.
Yeah, this, by the way, is from Friday, August 17th. If you want to read any of these articles, you can go to geoharvey.com and click on the date on the calendar, and it'll take you to the articles for that date. New Jersey Energy Master Plan Committee will host a series of public meetings in September, launching a process to shape converting the state's energy production profile to 100% clean energy resources by 2050, the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities announced. And by clean power, they mean renewable power plus nuclear.
Okay.
Although where they're going to get nuclear from in 2050, I don't know.
Well, it's no longer economical.
No, they're closing the plants down. Oyster Creek is closing down next month.
Is it really?
Yeah, and that's one of the New Jersey plants.
Yeah. Well, they say 2050. They'll do it before that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, should we move on?
Yeah, the next one is interesting.
It's from Energy Reporters. It's the one I was talking about earlier.
EU backs Norway and Germany power link. This is an important one, too.
It is important. We don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but it's a power link between Norway and Germany is being backed by the European Investment Bank. It signed a 100 million euro financing agreement with TenneT, one of Europe's major electricity transmission system operators. The 624 kilometer 1.4 gigawatt interconnector will go under the North Sea. And
That's cables.
yeah, that's cables. But it just means that if the wind is blowing in Norway and not in Germany, they're going to be able to move that electricity between the two places.
Norway has a lot of hydro.
It has a lot of hydro. Yep. And Norway doesn't need this, but Germany does.
Well, it's a useful thing basically for Europe
Yeah.
because they're going to be able to shift power where it's needed.
Yes. Okay, move on.
Yeah, we got another picture.
We have
coming
a
up
picture here that has nothing whatever to do with energy. It does have something to do with Arizona.
It has something to do with Arizona and the Navajo Nation that I just talked about.
Yes, that's right.
Arizona renewable. By the way, that is called Window Mountain.
Window Rock.
Window Rock, I mean. Yep,
Yeah.
Window Rock. Arizona renewable energy referendum meets a signature requirement. This again is the Navajo Nation.
It is. The PV Magazine USA is the source of this. Clean Energy for Healthy Arizona's initiative to impose a 50% by 2030 renewable energy mandate passed another of the hurdles standing between it and its place on the ballot in November. A review of petition signatures shows the number was sufficient to move on. Now, this has been challenged in court, too.
This is in the courts now.
Yeah.
It's in the courts now. It's basically Arizona Public Service has said that distributed customer and third-party owned solar is a threat to its revenues.
Yeah.
I thought this was a free market.
Well, you know, it's not a free market, it's a monopoly. They want to retain a monopoly, and they want to retain their ownership of the power generation and power transmission systems. Now, some utilities are doing that, other utilities are not. And I think ultimately, because distributed power is possible, and people are going to want to put up solar power panels on their roofs and get batteries, this distributed system is going to predominate.
Eventually, economics is going to win.
Yeah.
No matter what else.
Okay. We are up to Saturday, August 18th, and we have an item from Microgrid Knowledge.
Redundancy failed at Reagan International Airport, causing a 90-minute outage.
This is kind of scary in its
It
own
is really. It's not
quiet
supposed to
kind of
happen.
way. It's not supposed to happen. A 90-minute power outage at Reagan International Airport happened after redundancy built into the power system failed. A Dominion Energy spokesman said 2 utility feeds both failed. Dominion is investigating exactly what went wrong. You know, it reminds me a little bit of a friend of mine who literally wrote the book on maintenance for the radio system in the Harrier jump jet.
Oh, yeah?
And he said, you know, a jet like this, you got to have a redundant fuel pump.
Yeah,
But the
Makes
fuel
sense.
pumps in the field failed quickly enough that they realized that a single redundant fuel pump was not
Wasn't enough. Oh,
so they
boy.
put in another redundant fuel pump. And he said by the time they were done, some of these planes had 5 fuel pumps. This isn't supposed to happen, but it will. It's guaranteed.
Yeah.
You know, weird things happen. And when you think of it, how are they going to deal with what happens when the grid goes down?
Well, there's an answer to that.
Yeah.
These outages have heightened interest in airport microgrids,
Of course.
which run all the time, so there's no surprise when a backup power is suddenly needed.
Absolutely.
San Diego, by the way, has one already.
Yep. And this is something that I hit when I'm looking at the news over and over and over and over again. Airports all over the world. Some of the airports are actually running 100% on solar power.
Are they really?
Yeah. Because they have...
It's logical.
Yeah, they have these big fields.
Yeah.
They don't want anybody near the runways, so they've got big areas they can put solar panels in.
Yeah.
They put them in carefully so that the pilots don't get a big shot of glare in their eyes. And then they put in batteries, and they can run independently of the grid.
Makes sense to me.
Yep. Okay.
We got another one coming up here with a picture.
With a picture, and that is a picture.
get that
You know,
picture there.
we see pictures of Block Island so much it's crazy. But those are the only 5 offshore wind turbines in the United States.
In the United States right now.
Yep. And this is from the press of Atlantic City.
Wind energy potential. Potential is the important word there.
Yep.
Dwarfs today's electricity use.
Winds blowing off the Atlantic coast could provide 4 times more electricity each year than the region currently uses, according to a report from Environment New Jersey Research and Policy Center. Just 2 wind leases off New Jersey, off the New Jersey coast, could power 1.5 million homes.
What the article says is 12 of the 14 east coastal states have offshore wind potential that exceeds their current electricity consumption.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of potential out
Yeah.
there, and Eventually, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And if you watch the show, you know someplace where it is
Yeah.
happening already.
As a matter of fact, one
New
of the
York
things-
has got one going.
Yeah.
New Jersey, I think.
Now Connecticut
Virginia.
is sending
Virginia's
signals
talking
that it's-
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Maryland. Connecticut is saying they want to have their own offshore wind. Yeah, it's a big
Well,
power source.
here it is from the article. The outer continental shelf of the eastern U.S. is one of the most productive offshore wind areas on Earth
Right.
due to the shallow water and the proximity to millions of homes.
Yes.
And it is. Okay.
Okay. Our next item is from Sierra Magazine.
Oh, I got a real bad link on this one. I had a hard time finding
Oh,
it.
did you?
It came, what came up was a picture of a $100 bill with some
Donkeys on it.
donkeys on it.
Yes.
And nothing else.
Nothing else. Oh my God.
Which came from the original article, but
It did
was,
indeed.
it was a bad link.
Yeah.
But I got it anyhow. When fossil fuel money talks, the DNC listens.
Lately, the Democratic...
Listen to that one again. When
Yeah.
fossil fuel money talks, the Democratic National Committee listens.
Lately, the Democratic national leadership faced a difficult decision relating to global climate change and money in politics. Unfortunately, it decided to pass a resolution expressing gratitude for donations from workers in the energy industry and their employers'
Wow.
political action committees. And those words, I read this resolution, which passed. I think it was 43-2 or something like that. I read it, and it's almost like those 4 words or 5 words, their employers' political action committees. Are,
ExxonMobil, Chevron,
yeah,
Peabody
and
Coal.
it's like all of a sudden we can take as much money as we want. And you know, the thing that's really appalling about, there's a bunch of things appalling about this. This means that the Democratic Party is offering itself up to for sale as far as I'm concerned.
Almost every politician in Washington is.
Yeah, but it also means that the Democratic Party, which for decades has been the party of the unions and the working people, is now going to be the party of the unions, the working people, and whoever employs them. Which means, of course, they're going to go with whoever offers them the most money. Do you suppose that's going to be the workers?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
The fix is in, baby.
And meanwhile, the Koch brothers have said that they're planning on supporting whoever agrees with them politically, which I don't think really means politically. I think it means economically.
Yep. I hear you.
And they specifically said, including Democrats, and you know, a union organizer I know in New Mexico has been sending me email after email after email saying, it ain't so. Tell me, you know, it ain't so. And I actually did the research and found, you know, this thing. Sierra Magazine is generally pretty
Yeah, it's a pretty good magazine.
good
Jim.
magazine about this kind of thing, and I was getting the information when I got the information the DNC resolution. That's what it said. So those words just struck me as being that shouldn't even be there, but nevertheless.
Well, for what it's worth, there is a movement afoot to castigate the Democrats for doing this.
Yes.
I mean, it's a grassroots movement starting.
Well, we're going to see some Democrat congressmen who are running for office saying, no, I'm not part of that.
We're going to see some Republicans that are running for office
We're
saying
going to
no,
see
no.
a very strange midterm election. Yeah.
It's true.
We are up to Sunday, August 19th.
Ryan Zinke, who's he?
Ryan Zinke.
Ryan Zinke concludes that climate change is a factor in raging wildfires.
Oh,
and that's
man.
an interesting statement.
It is, and I just don't believe it. Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke recently said things that landed him squarely in a debate over how forest fires and forests are managed. In one interview, he blamed environmental terrorist groups, those 3 words in quotes, for the California wildfires. He's blaming environmentalist terrorist groups. He later admitted a connection between the fires and climate change. Now, that environmentalist terror group is
that was pretty far
big
far-fetched.
stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, well, it's their fault that they didn't have more dams, and if we had more dams, we'd have more water. I got news for you, Mr. Zinke. If you got more dams, you got as much water as you're going to get out of the rain. You're not going to fill those reservoirs any fuller.
Bingo.
Yeah. Okay. Should we escape this?
Yeah, let's get
Okay.
out of here. We got another picture
We
coming
do,
up,
and
though.
this is from Nation of Change. And why they're dealing with a pump jack here, I'm not sure.
I don't know either. I was wondering about exactly
Well,
that.
it's oil coming out of the ground, but I don't think they use those things with fracked oil. Maybe they do. I don't know.
If they have to pump it out, they need something like this.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like in Saudi Arabia, they don't even have to pump it out. It's
That's the way it
pressurized.
was when they
Yeah.
first started putting wells down in the United States.
Well, a news study warns fracking is destroying the U.S. water supply.
A study from Duke University puts into perspective the effects of fracking has had on the U.S. water supply. The researchers who published the peer-reviewed findings in Science Advances used years of data to draw the conclusion that fracking is destroying the country's water. This
From
is
the
worrisome.
article, the permanent loss of water use for hydraulic fracturing is higher than other forms of energy.
Yeah.
The study said that water is highly saline and is difficult to treat. So they're stuck with water that they can't use it.
Yeah, it means you've got aquifers that used to be full of fresh water and now they're full of salt
Full of
water.
salt water.
And unfortunately, because of politicians in Washington, it's illegal to require the industry tell you what the salts are.
They're not sodium chloride, are they?
No, they're
Yeah.
not sodium chloride.
Bad salts.
There are some bad salts out there, yes. They're real rascal salts. Okay, our next one is from Science Alert.
U.S. military now has the money it needs to prepare for climate change.
There's stuff going on in Washington where there's people down there who are trying to do things that are right, and there are other people down there who are trying to mollify the people who hold the chains that bind them.
Well, it's military spending, and that's
Yeah.
always popular.
President Trump signed into law the John S. McCain National Defense Authorization Act for the fiscal year 2019. The $716 billion military spending bill funds the military's operations. Included in it are funds to help the military prepare for climate change.
Well, what they're saying in the article is climate change isn't just an environmental or political issue.
Yeah.
It's a defense issue, too.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's-
they're already having problems at naval bases because the height of the dock is related to the height of the water and how the ship sits in the water, and the ships are getting too high relative to the docks.
Well, I haven't
in
heard
some
that one
places.
yet, but
No, there was an article that appeared in Rolling Stone, believe it or not, a couple of years ago.
wow.
And they're having to rebuild infrastructure because the ocean level has risen several inches, and that's enough to cause trouble.
There it is. Wow.
Okay, we're up to Monday, August 20th, and
And we
we
got a
have a
picture here.
picture here.
I'll pull that one up.
Yeah, we are.
Kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, this we're
Open pit mine.
we're getting this from Energy News Network.
Mine cleanup funds at risk as coal power suppliers lose customers.
The defection
Vicious
of
circle here.
Yeah, it is. The defection of local electric cooperatives from a Colorado power wholesaler could imperil cleanup funds for coal mines, a complaint to federal regulators says. The funds, which are guaranteed by Tri-State Generation and Transmission, that same company that we were talking about earlier, have no outside backing.
This is complicated. It's bonds, but they're their own bonds. Oh,
Yeah, and
it's hard to understand.
well, what it means is if they go out of business, those bonds might wind up being worthless.
Yeah.
Which means, and nobody's backing them.
Bingo.
So
That's the problem.
It means that if they go out of business, all of a sudden there's no cleanup. Nobody's going to do the cleanup.
Yeah.
Who's going to do the cleanup? Well, either it's not going to be done or it's going to be done by the taxpayer.
Yep.
So, and that mine, but you want to take that back up again?
Yeah.
That mine is unbelievably big. You can see roads running through it and so forth. Well, this is just one edge of it. This thing is huge.
Where
Absolutely
is
huge.
this one?
It straddles the border
Colorado, huh?
between Colorado and Wyoming, I believe. and it's like, I don't know how big it is, but you know, some of these mines are twice the size of the island of Manhattan. This thing, and this one is a particularly big one, but you're seeing just a tiny part of it. Okay, let's move on. We have an item
Moving
here
along.
from The Guardian. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. I'm just looking. There's a picture coming up, but it's
Yeah.
for the next one.
Yeah, it is.
Turnbull. We'll find out who he is.
Yep.
Just showed what happens when ideology and idiocy take charge of energy policy.
Some parts of the government, this is the Australian government, do not believe in climate change. Their ideological ties to the coal-based power systems built 40 to 50 years ago has scuttled every attempt to develop credible climate change energy policy over the last 10 years. Turnbull is Malcolm Turnbull, the Prime Minister of Australia. And
He's the big chief.
He's the big chief. And the Liberal Party, which he's the head of, which in American terms is conservative, is divided into two groups. One of them is pro-business, and the other is radical right. Sound familiar?
Ooh.
And the radical right...
Pro-business and radical right.
Right.
Wow.
And pro-business is not really opposed in general to dealing with climate change the way that the radical right is. And the radical
They're
right,
denying it.
They're denying it, and they are about to throw Malcolm Turnbull out of office. The things that I've seen today say that they figure they will have it done within
They can do that. They got a vote of no confidence.
Vote of no
Boy, we
confidence.
need that now.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we need a vote of no confidence that covers more than just one person, I'm afraid.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
But they are having a really messy time in Australia. And honestly, I think these guys are going to be voted out of office. The Australian population is not in favor of them. As a matter of fact, the guy who might replace Turnbull as the Prime Minister is only backed by 7% of the politicians in his own party. Where does this come from? It's a simple matter of I have a lot of money and I'm interested in keeping coal alive, so I leverage my money by influencing a very few politicians on the radical right of the political party, in this case the Australian Liberal Party, and that I
The
can
Liberal
leverage.
Party is conservative.
Yeah, I
And the
can
Labour
leverage,
Party is liberal.
Yeah, I can leverage my money to take over one element of one party and leverage that element of that party to take over the whole party and leverage that party into taking over the government. And it happened in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got about 300 people who backed the radical right takeover of the federal government, and now we're living with the results of that. So, you know, and now
it's interesting from stuff we've talked about here is that the states tend to be labor. Well, at least
yes,
right now.
the important states in the issue of climate change tend to be labor
New South
states.
Wales and
New South Wales, Victoria, the Australian Capital Territory, and to a certain extent Queensland. But these states, which are all on the eastern side, well, everything in Australia is the eastern side except the Western Territory, Western Australia. I mean, Western Australia is practically half the country.
Yeah, it's a big state.
Big.
Australian states are large.
Yeah,
physically large.
They're gigantic, and you know, the smallest one is probably the size of New England, but the big ones are big, probably a multiple of the size of Texas. And
Yeah, they're
Alaska
bigger than
put
Texas
together.
for sure.
Yeah.
Now,
Anyway,
let's move along here. We got a picture coming up.
we do, and this picture.
And we're back in Australia again.
We're still in Australia. I was going to say, absolutely.
Yeah, pretty little cottage, isn't it?
Yeah, what we can see of it.
Game changer for solar in Victoria.
This is from Echo Generation. The government of the Australian state of Victoria announced a $1.24 billion funding package to install 650,000 Victorian homes over a decade to have solar, adding about 2,000 megawatts of solar power. Environment Victoria, a leading charity, called the deal a game changer and a breath of fresh air in the energy debate.
Every homeowner who wants solar will be able to afford it.
Right.
Bingo.
You know, there was an interesting thing that happened this week from Green Mountain Power. You know the thing about the Tesla battery for $15 a month?
Yeah.
Well, they are giving the batteries for free to 100 homes of people who are low income and have special health needs.
Okay, that's
So
a good idea.
anybody who falls into those categories should and is a Green Mountain Power customer might do well to contact Green Mountain Power to find out about that.
Certainly worth a phone call.
Absolutely. Okay, our next item, we're up to Tuesday, August 21st, and we've got an item about gas mileage. We
Got another picture here.
promised this to you earlier.
Yeah, this is
from
cool.
Clean Technica.
This is a nice article. I like this one.
This is fun.
Duke University students set world record for hydrogen fuel cell economy.
Guinness World Records confirmed that Duke University students set a new world record for economy for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles.
And that's it.
That's it. In an experimental vehicle, the students got a stunning 14,573 miles per gallon.
Well, the vehicle is capable of driving to any point on the globe, but have a hard time on the ocean,
Yeah.
using the energy in 1 gallon of gas.
They aren't going to get to Barrow, Alaska. That thing has got to drive on roads, and there ain't no road to Barrow.
No road to Barrow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a song about that.
I guess we could. we could do it to the music of Hotel California or something.
Something like that. Well, we got another one coming up, and it looks like we got another picture.
Not the next one.
No, that's the following one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So our next one, and we are still on Tuesday. The next one is from KSHB.
Which sounds to me like a radio station.
Sounds like a radio station.
Acting EPA head signs Trump administration proposal that would release more CO2 into the air, according to the Wall Street Journal.
The EPA will allow states to set their own emission standards for coal fuel powered plants, the Wall Street Journal reported on Monday. Critics say the decision will result in more carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere. Now, this article relates to 2 more articles that are coming.
And we're going to be talking about this whole thing.
Yeah, we will be.
It's a big thing.
Yeah, maybe we should
Move on?
Yeah, move on.
Well, a quick takeaway from here.
Yeah.
The proposal is projected to release 12 times the amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere compared with Obama's clean power plan.
Well,
12 times.
12 times, but I'd like to know who's making that projection, because I've seen different projections, and some of the projections say, nah, it's going to be about the same. And the reason for that is because we're going to go where the economy leads us, and the economy is going to close those plants.
Aha.
So,
Okay.
We'll
Yeah,
see
let's
how
move
it
on.
works. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica, and we do have a picture here.
We do have a picture here. Boy, it was a long time ago that I was in Miami, and it didn't look like that.
Yes.
Sea level rise is a major urban economic risk.
When we think of sea level rise due to global warming, we tend to think of beaches eroding or perhaps tiny Pacific nations like the Maldives slowly disappearing. The reality, however, is that it will not be countries or countrysides bearing the economic brunt of sea level rise. It will be cities. And you look at that and you can see why.
You can see why. And if you look at Lower Manhattan, you see almost the same damn thing.
Yeah, and if you look at Boston, it's the same thing. And if you look at Charleston, it's the same thing. And if you look at Washington, D.C., it's the same kind of thing. And what happens? Well, when that sea level goes up 4 feet,
Yeah.
we're going to have buildings that you can't pump out,
Yeah.
and
They're going to be falling down.
they're going to be falling down. And so what happens? We're going to have cities like that one that's right in front of you on the screen that very likely are going to have to be evacuated and allowed just to...
Well, from the article, here's a couple of, this is real data.
Yeah.
Shanghai is only 13 feet above sea level.
Yeah,
New York is 33.
on average.
That's the average.
Yeah.
London and Paris are each 115. Tokyo is 130. Now that's not a hell of a lot.
And when we're talking about Tokyo, for example, 130 feet above sea level, that means that if the sea level rises 10 feet, okay, anything that's above that is probably still in business. And on average, Tokyo's still going to be there. But
Well, that's the average level of the sea. It has nothing to do with the waves.
yeah, but it also means that there are all kinds of buildings that are not 130 feet above sea level. They're 5 feet above sea level, and they're going to have to be destroyed. And here in Miami,
it is happening as we speak in Miami, and they're trying to take effect. They're trying to do things to circumvent it, but it's too little, too late.
the economic losses, and this is a real point of this article. The economic losses from sea level rise will not be little island nations with 20,000 people.
No, it's going to be some
disappearing
big cities
in the
around the
Pacific.
world.
The real economic losses are going to be Miami and New Orleans and Charleston. You know, I mean the counties along the Gulf Coast in Louisiana, the government
They're
of
going
Louisiana has already told them you're going to have to evacuate soon. And that's a
And the
Republican
Jersey Shore is
conservative-
going to be nothing but a memory.
And there are people writing articles about how are the nuclear power plants that are right on the edge of the water going to deal with the water rising a few feet.
Scary.
When
What did you just mention was closing?
Oyster Creek.
And that's on the ocean, isn't it?
Oyster Creek, during Hurricane Sandy, the water at the high tide was only about an inch or two from the height of the seawall, which means that there had to be waves sloshing over that.
Yeah.
So this is very serious. And the thing that I'm thinking is, as the sea level rises, we're going to have not just nuclear power plants, but other power plants, chemical companies, shipping companies, docks, all that kind of stuff. All of that infrastructure is going to have to be moved. What's the cost of that?
Pretty
gonna
good
be?
for a hoax, isn't it?
Oh man. Yeah.
Now, let's
Okay.
move along here,
We
because
are
this is
up
an
to
interesting article, too.
Wednesday, August 22nd, and this actually is kind of scary.
Arctic's strongest sea ice breaks up for the first time on record. And we've talked about this already. I mean, you can now run a ship basically across the North Pole. It's not going exactly over the pole, but you could get from Europe to the U.S. through a northern route now.
Actually, there's a ship right now, a container ship is running over the full length. It's running from China, I think, perhaps it's South Korea, I forget. But instead of going south
Exactly.
and going around and through the Suez Canal to get to Russia, the west
Coast.
coast of Russia, they're going north, and then they're going through the Arctic to get there. It's going to shave 14 days off their trip.
Wow. I mean,
And all right, this is the oldest and thickest sea ice in the Arctic has started to break up, opening waters north of Greenland that are
we've
normally
talked about
frozen.
this several times already.
Even in the summer, but this is north of Greenland. This is only 8 degrees from the North Pole. This phenomenon, which has never been recorded before, has occurred twice already this year due to warm winds during heat waves. And
Well, these waters open up in February. In February they opened up, and in August.
don't worry about it, Tom. It's a Chinese hoax.
Yeah, right.
That ice, they sent things up there, submarines, to melt it, really. I mean, this is absolutely insane. And the idea that you can deny this is happening, but they do it. Okay, we have...
Well, in addition to this pathway opening up for ships, which is a good thing, I guess. And we talked about this too, they got excursion ships going up there.
Yes. Well, that's north of Canada. This thing is north of Russia.
Yeah, right. It is. I got a picture of the map here, and it's all Russia, Siberia. The ice is nowhere near it.
Yeah.
The polar vortex, which is a circle of strong winds that keep the Arctic cold, may be eroding.
Yes.
And that may affect the jet stream. It will affect the world's
I
climate.
think it's already affecting the
This
jet
has
stream.
been blamed for record temperatures in Lapland and forest fires in Siberia. Wow.
Okay, now, having all that information about climate change, Tom, we're back to the United States and the thing that we talked about just a moment ago about
We just did. We got a picture too.
about the acting EPA head, and we have this from MTPR,
Sounds. I was
Montana Public Radio, I think it
I
is.
I was thinking it sounds like a radio station.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, Montana. That makes sense. Well, Trump moves to let states regulate coal plant emissions. La di da.
This is what we were just mentioning
Yep,
the EPA
exactly.
was doing. The Trump administration has moved to formally replace the Clean Power Plan, an environmental regulation that former President Barack Obama once lauded as the most important step America has ever taken to fight climate change, with a plan of its own, which, by the way, is called the Dirty Power Plan. Formally, it's called the Affordable Clean Energy Act Plan, or something
Sounds good,
like
doesn't
that.
it?
It sounds wonderful. You know, it's kind of like the communists calling everything the people's this and the people's that. So Comrade
The
Lenin
people had
was,
nothing to do with it.
yeah, Comrade Lenin was being driven around in Rolls Royces that were the people's car.
Well, this is the Fox Garden and Chicken House.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is. Trump's proposal would give states more authority to make their own plans for regulating emissions. Duh.
Duh. And so what's happened? Well, Oregon has said, well, we're gonna make sure that we're closing every power plant we can shut down. Washington State, California, the people in Minnesota are upset because this means that the air that they breathe, which is coming from Montana and Wyoming, is going to be affecting them. And you know, this is a serious problem. It's an interstate problem. It has to be regulated by the federal government, and this means
This is just a loophole. It's a
well, the other thing is
invasion.
the Supreme Court has already told the federal government that it has to deal with carbon dioxide emissions, and
Yep.
Trump is abrogating that responsibility. The Supreme Court has determined that carbon emissions are pollution. And I have a feeling that when that lawsuit that was launched by those kids gets up before the courts in October, the courts are not going to be impressed by the actions of the federal government. And when they win that lawsuit, which I expect them to do in district court, and it goes to the Supreme Court, which I expect it will, my guess is that the Supreme Court is not going to be particularly interested in the government's explanations of how things have to be done and why.
Well, I think Trump has backed himself into a corner here. He ran on saving the coal industry,
Yeah.
among other things.
He can't save
And
the
he
coal
can't.
industry. It's
Economics is going to kill him.
It's not even possible. The thing is, right now, my recollection is there are 2 coal plants under development, but nobody has done anything with them for 2 years. So they're technically under development, but in fact they've been abandoned. And there hasn't been any new coal-burning power facility put online in 2 years. And
Money talks.
right, and the facility that was put on 2 years ago was tiny. And what's happening in the meantime, we have closed down since like 2008 about 50% of the coal plants in the United States. Well, they're still shutting down coal plants, and they're replacing those coal plants with natural gas. But they're also replacing the coal plants and the natural gas with wind and solar, and batteries now. The coal industry has been basically destroyed. The natural gas industry
Has
being
killed
destroyed,
the
but
coal
it's being
industry.
destroyed.
Yeah.
Because right now we've got lots and lots of natural gas burning power plants coming online. But where's the market for what they're doing? The amount of electricity produced by natural gas last year declined by 7.5%. 7.5% is a serious drop.
It is.
And so what does that mean? It means that as new plants come online, they're moving into a tighter and tighter market. They're not economical.
Well, we've watched the cost of solar panels dropped drastically.
Drastically.
Just in the 3 years or so we've been doing this show.
Yeah.
And there's stuff on the horizon
Yep.
that's going to replace what we're doing with solar panels now. We talked about one of them where you can print the solar panels.
Yeah. You
Okay.
can print the, so these are what's called,
This is maybe 2-3 years away from the market, but it's coming.
it's called organic. solar
Organic,
panel.
exactly.
And, you know,
Flexible solar
that's
panels you
right.
can put on windows, you can put them on a building.
absolutely. You could put them,
They're printing these
yeah,
things.
you could put them on your car roof and it'll form to the car roof.
Yeah. So
there-
there's going to be a lot of changes.
Yeah, there's a problem with those organic solar panels, which is that they don't last very long compared to the ones that we have now, the crystalline
Okay.
solar panels. Crystalline solar
Are they going to
panels,
fix that? I think.
they'll make them good.
Yeah.
But the crystalline solar panels, you know, the ones that we see now,
Yeah.
are generally good for, well, they're,
20
they're
years,
guaranteed
anyhow.
for 20 years. But the thought is that they might be good for 100. Because there's
There's nothing much happening to them.
nothing, and
They don't degrade.
They do,
Well, very slightly.
very, very slowly, and so, you know, originally the worry was that they would degrade enough that after 30 years or so, maybe it would be time to replace them.
For
But the
economic reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the degradation has turned out to be slower than anticipated. And, you know, I've read about panels that were the first solar panels to go online on the grid in France were investigated after 20 years, and they were found to have degraded 7%.
Wow.
Now, the 7% is decelerating. So this is a long-term production. They might be there for 100 years. Who knows?
The times they are changing.
Yeah.
Well,
Now,
this is our last article coming up.
CNN gave us this.
CNN usually does some pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
If Trump and the GOP don't understand climate change, they don't deserve public office.
Trump proposed new EPA rules are not just vindictive, which is exactly why I think they were put in from some people's point of view. They are dangerous. The administration wants to allow coal-burning power plants to emit more deadly carbon and give states greater leeway to allow big money companies to pollute.
It's too bad we can't show videos from these articles. No, there's about a 1.5-minute video
Yeah.
called Health Risks to Power Plant Regulation Rollback.
Yeah.
And it's well worth looking at.
Yep. And
Well
you know
worth
what
looking at.
happened here was when Wheeler, I think his name is Andrew Wheeler, who is the acting head of the EPA, signed that order that we mentioned earlier. Almost at the same moment, the EPA produced information, and this is his own agency, produced information that said this will cause something on the order of, I don't remember
So
what the
many
number
deaths.
was. It was in excess of 1,000 deaths. I think it was like 1,200 deaths or
Yeah,
1,500
1,200
deaths.
rings a bell.
1,200 deaths per year prematurely within 12 years. Now, that combined with the next thing, it's going to cost billions of dollars every year, combined with the fact that coal produces electricity that is priced higher than renewable power, which is why the federal government has to get to support it, indicates something to me, which is that Wheeler cannot, by any conceivable means, excuse the fact that he has done this.
No, you can't.
And people are going to die. And what does that mean? That means reckless disregard for human life.
Well, from the article, it explains what's going on. The proposal reflects a long-standing and damaging idea in right-wing politics, quote, that climate change is a matter of opinion, not fact, and that efforts to fight it are a liberal conspiracy against big business.
Yeah, and Miami is going to pay the price.
In any
Charleston-
reasonable universe, those who deny basic scientific facts that connect this grim reality to humans' role in global warming will be deemed unfit to hold office.
And it's time for us to say
I
goodbye.
think it is that time.
Bye, everybody. Other hand.
Adios.
There you go.